Hi everybody, it's Joni here. Welcome back for another painting tutorial in acrylics. Today I'm going to show you how to paint some beautiful roses with the sun shining on them. I'm working on a 12 by 16 double primed and stretched canvas, and I have the following colors here: titanium white, luminous yellow, orange, and red. These are by Holbein. And then I also have quinacridone magenta, Mars black, hooker's green hue permanent, and phthalo blue. The brushes I'll be using today are a 30 filbert, a 4 filbert, and a 1-inch mop brush. So let's go ahead and get started. The very first thing I'm going to do is start bringing some warmth into the sky where our light source is going to be, and that's the top right corner here. And I've got a little spray bottle here just with some water in it that I like to use for wetting my canvas and my palette. This keeps your acrylic paint stay wet a lot longer. It's just the finest misting setting spray on it, so there's not a lot of drips and you're not applying too much water all at once. It gives you a little bit more control over the amount of water you use. So what I'm going to do is just to add a little bit of water here, and I'm going to take my large brush. I'm going to take some white, and I'm going to take both luminous yellow and orange, and I'm just going to go in kind of a crisscross brush stroke. And then just leave it bright white in the center. I'm going to take a little bit more of these colors, and I'll come around, bring this down a little bit lower. I'm going to add a little bit of water. Again, just a little bit. That way you can control. Sometimes when we put our brush in the water, like in your water jug, it can add too much water to your brush. So I just find this is really helpful. And the next color I'm going to take is my magenta. A little bit of white, and I'm going to start adding this along the very top. And then working that in. A little bit of water again. And I'm going to take a little bit of blue, magenta, and white. A little bit of water, more magenta, a little bit more white. Okay, before anything else, take my mop brush, and I'm just going to go around in little circles here, and look how we can really just soften these areas up. Now the areas that aren't softening don't have enough water or don't have enough paint, so I'll just try a little bit of water here and see if that does the trick. And sure enough, it does. Okay, again, just a little softening with a brush, and makes everything look very blurry in the background. Okay, let's continue with our colors. I'm going to continue with a little bit of magenta and blue. I'm going to start making it a little bit darker and deeper in here. Just alternating. Adding that with my filbert brush, and then softening with my mop brush. Okay, and the next color I'm going to take is green with magenta and some blue. Start adding some down in here. Soften. Little spritz of water. Work the rest of that paint out of my brush. And I'm going to take some more green now. Blue, green, and a little bit of black, and I'm going to pull that through the very bottom here. So just a little bit of each color. Okay, and then soften. And I'm going to add a little bit of each of those colors up in here. A little bit like so, and then soften. Because we're going to have some roses up here as well. We just want little hints of these colors in here. And a little bit on the side. Okay, so I'm going to completely dry this layer of paint off, and then we're going to start coming in with our magenta and building up from a dark base to lighter shades for our flowers. Okay, I'm going to get some more of my magenta, a little bit more of my blue, and I've got my small filbert brush now. This is a number 4, and I'm going to take the magenta and I'm going to start adding some round blobby rose shapes. Now I like to do them kind of choppy like this because it starts to give you petal shapes already. So we want to feel like we're close up to these roses right in this section here. So they're going to be the biggest here. Just short, choppy brush strokes. You can layer over, and then I'm going to bring some in here. They're going to get a little bit smaller. More of a cup shape here, different angle. This is the face. This is more of like the side. Let's make a few like that. And then a little smaller. And then gradually get a little bit bigger. And we're just going to create smaller and smaller and smaller ones that are going to fade away back here in the distance. This is going to help create perspective in your painting when you make things a little smaller so they look farther away. Okay, then we're going to start to make them a little bigger again. I'll take what's left here and add another one. Okay, now what I'm going to do is come in with a little bit of white. And I'm going to add smaller and thinner little brush strokes, a little tighter together. And you can go down to a smaller brush if you want, or just be really careful with the amount of pressure that you're applying with this number 4 filbert. So just mainly the tip of the brush so that you get thinner petals. Now this is all going to dry a little bit darker, and that's like the main reason, one of the reasons why I'm adding white over top of this while it's wet, so that I'm picking up some of that magenta and creating a lighter shade. Now as they get a little farther away, we will have less and less of these little lines, and they'll just be more like little dabs and splotches of color. Now I'm going to apply a little bit more of the magenta because mine is starting to dry here, and I actually want to keep a light pink shade. So you can keep your petals, there's so many different types of roses, right? You can keep them really round and smooth, or you can make them a little triangular and have little peaks like that. Then you will also want to make sure you have some petals that are a little thicker and fuller. Okay, I'm going to rinse my brush out, and I'm going to start pulling into some red, mixing that in with what I've got left here, my magenta and a little bit of white. Okay, we're going to start to really bring the heat up with the color now and the temperature of our red. Remember, these ones are farther away. They're just going to be little, smaller little blobs. I'm going to pull in a little bit of white into that red again. And then I'm going to just start to add less and less white. You might just want to keep your roses as is, the magenta and white shade. But I really wanted to play around with my red today. And I did a much larger version of this the other day. Unfortunately, I thought I had hit record on my camera, but I didn't. So I did try to make a tutorial out of that one, but sometimes that happens. Not very often these days now that I'm practiced more at making videos, and I always usually triple check to make sure that the record is going, but I didn't that day. I think I was just really excited. So you'll see how this will start to dry a little bit darker as the paint sets in, and it'll create some different shades over top of all these different colors. And then we're going to play around with some blue, green, and white and bring out some leaves and just a little bit more of the greenery. Okay, now I'm going to take, these look like little fish. They remind me of those little betta fish. I'm going to take some of this orange with red, a little bit of white in there. So you can see the difference. This is a little bit more pinky, and this one has a little bit more warmth to it. And I'm going to start adding a little bit more light to these roses. And we're closer together here. And I'm just twisting, turning my brush. I'll take some more white, make this more pastel as we get up into this bluey purple mauve. The colors are really pretty together. Okay, I'm rinsing my brush out. And with a clean brush, some white, some blue, and some green, we're going to make a shade of phthalo or turquoise, depending on how much. It'll be more of like a phthalo green with less white, and more turquoisey when we add more and more white. So you can see the difference in shades here. So let's take some of this deep phthalo green that we made and just gently push, pull, and flick off. Push, wiggle, pull, and let off. And take a little bit more of the green and the blue. Just a little bit coming up here. Okay, you don't need to overwork anything. Just keep it loose and expressive. Okay, I'm going to take some yellow, white, and orange. And I'm going to come up here and add a little bit of light. I'll add a little bit of white in there. Okay, so this just starts to give us a feel of some soft, subtle sun rays and light. And now I'm going to take some more white and mix that in to make a light, soft shade of turquoise. Add just a little bit more color in there. It's a bit lighter than I wanted it to be. There we go, I like that shade. And a little bit more. I'm going to take some blue, some magenta, I need a little bit more here. Squeeze in a little bit more of that. Mix these together. There we've got a nice shade of purple. I'm going to add a few little bits of purple flowers in here. Then come in with some white. Get it on the tip of your brush. And we'll start up here. Take a little bit more of blue. I'll add a little one up here. I love the touches of blue in with this color palette. I think all these colors look really pretty together. You don't even have to really make out in full detail what it is that you're painting. You can just add these little splashes of color and it'll look pretty. It's kind of borderlining on abstract, isn't it? Okay, so now I'm going to come in with final bit of magenta, and I'm going to, this is glazing. So the red on the roses are dry. And now I'm going to show you how you can create some amazing depth after you've done the lighter shades and it's all dry. So pick the color that you want to glaze over with, and I'm just going to add this to part of the roses, not all sides of it. This is how we'll create a little bit more shadow and light, making your, so you make it look a little more 3D. You can even go over and glaze. Well, these are still kind of wet, but if you're careful, you can. So I'm just choosing one side that isn't getting full on light from these rays. That will give us shadows, and then the other side that the light is hitting, the light is reaching, is more highlighted. Just want to add another dark magenta one here, but I've added just a touch of white so that it dries to something a little bit darker than this. Just a little something in there. Okay, so now what I want to do is go back in with my red, white, and orange, and come in and add some more light on the petals that I want to really highlight. If your brush starts to get too thick, work that paint out and make it nice and flat again. So you've got a nice thin end to your brush, so you can come in and add thinner lines. You can go into a little bit of the yellow and the white as we get a little farther away here. A little bit more red as we're kind of getting out of all of that light. If you just make a lot of crescent moon shapes or C shapes, like the letter C, I like to use shapes in my tutorials. I think it really helps. Well, it's helped me over the years break things down into more approachable way of painting, and it's helped my students greatly over the years. So I like to incorporate that into my YouTube and Patreon videos, break things down into little shapes. It just makes it a lot less challenging and overwhelming. I'm going to add a little bit I'm going to have a sun ray kind of going up here as well. So I just want to add a little bit of light on this one. And I'm going to up that a little bit of white and that yellow. Now, even after you've glazed with a dark, you can even go back and add more red. You can just keep adding and adding until you're satisfied with the amount of color you have. So what I'm going to do now is just dry this off, and then I'm going to come in with my final sun rays. Okay, now that I've dried this off, I'm going to go ahead and add some sun rays, and I'm going to be using my small filbert brush for this. Some white to start, a little bit of water. I don't know if I mentioned that already, but you definitely want to have some water. But see how drippy that is? That's too wet. So I'm going to just add some more paint, wiggle that around, even brush a lot of that off on the towel because there was too much. You want your sun rays to be light filtering, right? Very transparent and translucent. So I'm going to start with some white and go over these ones that we applied originally. Now some of these roses might be a little bit wet still just because I applied the paint really thick and chunky. So I'll just be mindful of that. And then I'm going to start bringing these sun rays up here. See the light's hitting this one. I want to make sure it lines up with the light on that rose. Okay, now what I'll be doing is adding a little bit of cool tones to my sun rays. So I'm going to mix up a little bit of the white and the blue together. Make that a little bit softer. And I'm not going to start from here. We want that to be bright, but as we get over here into the shadows, just put a little bit more blue in here. Just a little hint of a cool, and look how pretty the colors are together. Make this just a little bit deeper. And then I'm going to make a warm shade of green, because that's kind of the only thing missing from here. We have cool shades of green, but we don't have warm. So I want to just have a little dab here and there. Let me add a little bit more of that yellow. The yellow and the green together will give you more of this olive shade that's important to incorporate, because this is really going to help the play on complementary colors. And if I haven't mentioned it already during this video, the trick to adding gorgeous energy to your paintings, and I think you can see it's taking shape already just as I'm adding this warm shade. The trick to adding the most life to your paintings is applying cool shades and warm shades of each color. By doing that, you really add all of that energy, complementary, light on dark, warm and cold, and everything just comes together and harmonizes. It's like colors harmonizing and singing together visually. And again, not a lot of fussing and details, more of dabs of color, a quick little flick, push, pull, let off, expressiveness, and just a lot about how color and light play together. So I really like this one. I hope you guys enjoyed this and all the colors. Of course, you don't have to use all the colors that I used today. Many of you who are just starting out may not have all of these colors. That's fine. This is just for inspiration. So get your creative juices flowing, you know. It's visually stimulating to look at and energizing. I love using a lot of color, but I also paint with limited palettes and more muted tones at times as well. So use whatever colors you like, but just remember those simple principles, warm and cool tones. And you can learn more about warm and cool tones online and in other videos that I have here and on Patreon. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more. It's free. And feel free to check out my Patreon, where you can unlock hundreds of exclusive tutorials, connect with me one-on-one, and I can give you guys advice, critique your paintings, and it's all commercial free over on Patreon as well, so you can watch uninterrupted videos. Take care, everybody, and I'll see you soon in another video. Bye!